Royal Guard Horse Bite 7 won't release tourists. Royal Guard Horse Guards, King's Guard, London. Tourists from all over the world had gathered at the Horse Guards Parade, one of the city's most famous landmarks. The square was alive with excitement and chatter, a lively mix of languages echoing across the open space. Families, couples, and solo travelers all had their cameras ready, eager to capture a glimpse of the ceremonial guards who had stood watch over the royal grounds for centuries. The air carried a sense of tradition and discipline. Every detail, from the guards' polished boots to the gleaming brass buttons on their red uniforms, spoke of history. Their tall black hats, known as bearskins, added an air of grandeur, making them seem almost larger than life. The horses they rode were equally impressive, strong, majestic, and trained to remain perfectly calm even when surrounded by noisy crowds. Visitors were aware that these animals were not ordinary. They were symbols of royalty, trained for ceremonial duties and public appearances. On this particular day, the parade was especially crowded. A group of tourists had positioned themselves near the front, hoping for the perfect photograph. Among them was a family visiting London for the first time. Their excitement was palpable as they whispered to each other, pointing at the guards and the horses. The children's eyes widened at the sight of the tall, stoic guards and the beautiful, powerful animals beneath them. Parents snapped photo after photo, trying to capture the perfect moment that would last a lifetime. The guards stood motionless, their expressions serious, their focus unwavering. They had been trained for years to remain composed, to ignore distractions, and to perform their duties with precision. The horses, equally disciplined, mirrored their riders' poise. They were trained to step in rhythm, respond to subtle commands, and maintain composure in the presence of crowds. To the untrained eye, the scene might have seemed simple, just soldiers and horses performing a routine, but every movement was a product of extensive training and dedication. Despite the disciplined atmosphere, there was an underlying tension that tourists rarely noticed. Horses, like all animals, had instincts and moods that could change in an instant. Guards were constantly aware of their mounts, watching for signs of discomfort or agitation. They knew that one wrong move, one sudden loud noise, or even a crowded space could unsettle the animals. Visitors, caught up in the excitement, sometimes forgot to keep a safe distance, leaning in for pictures or calling out to the guards. On this day, one particular horse, a large chestnut stallion with a glossy coat, stood out. Known among the guards as Royal Guard Horse 7, he was known for his strength and intelligence, but also for his sensitivity. He had been trained extensively, but even the most disciplined animals had limits. Today, something seemed slightly different in his stance, a subtle twitch of his ears, a slight shift in his weight. The horse was alert, scanning the crowd with keen eyes, aware of every movement around him. The tourists, unaware of the horse's growing unease, continued to press closer. Phones were raised, cameras clicked, and excited whispers filled the air. Royal Guard Horse 7's ears flicked back briefly, a silent warning that went unnoticed by the crowd. The guards noticed the change in the horse's behavior, but with so many tourists around, there was little they could do immediately. They exchanged quick, silent glances, a silent communication honed by years of experience. As the parade continued, the atmosphere remained festive but tense. Children waved happily at the horses, and tourists laughed and joked as they posed for photos. The guards maintained their composure, standing tall and still, but their eyes constantly scanned the crowd and their mounts. Every detail mattered: the spacing between people, the direction of movement, the subtle signals given to the horses. A small disruption could quickly become a bigger problem if not managed carefully. Royal Guard Horse 7 shifted his weight again, his muscles tensing beneath the guard seated on his back. It was a small, almost imperceptible sign, but it reflected a growing discomfort. He had been exposed to thousands of tourists before, yet something about today, the noise, the closeness of the crowd, the sudden movements, was different. The guard adjusted his posture, giving subtle commands to reassure the horse, but the animal remained alert, eyes wide and focused. In the midst of the crowd, a few tourists leaned closer than they should have, eager to touch the horse or get a perfect selfie. Their excitement, though harmless in intention, added to the horse's agitation. The guards noticed and stepped subtly to create space, their movements precise and controlled. Yet, despite their best efforts, the horse's tension was growing. Visitors continued to admire the grandeur of the scene, many unaware of the delicate balance between human enthusiasm and animal instinct. To them, it was a magical moment, a picture-perfect memory of London's iconic guards. But for the guards and the horse, it was a careful dance of discipline, awareness, and control. Every second counted, and the stakes, though invisible to the tourists, were high. The morning wore on, and the crowd remained thick. Tourists snapped photos, shared excited chatter, and marveled at the ceremonial display. Royal Guard Horse 7, now fully alert, maintained his composure outwardly, but every muscle in his body was ready to respond to any sudden movement. The guards continued their silent vigilance, aware that even the smallest misstep could turn this picturesque scene into a tense situation. And then, without warning, the delicate balance would be tested. What began as an ordinary morning at the Horse Guards parade was about to become an unforgettable moment, one that would remind everyone present of the power, unpredictability, and majesty of the royal horses. The morning that had begun so calmly at Horse Guards parade suddenly shifted. Royal Guard Horse 7, the majestic chestnut stallion, had been alert and slightly tense for some time. At first, his unease had been subtle, a flick of his ears, a small shuffle of his hooves. The tourists, caught up in the beauty and tradition of the scene, had not noticed. Cameras clicked and phones recorded videos, capturing the stately guards and their powerful horses as if nothing could ever go wrong. But animals, like people, have their limits. Royal Guard Horse 7 had been exposed to thousands of tourists over his training and years of service. Each crowd, each new face, and each burst of sudden movement had tested his patience. On this day, however, something was different. Perhaps it was the unusually loud chatter of a nearby group, the sudden clanging of a dropped camera, or simply the strain of standing still under the hot morning sun. Whatever the cause, the horse's tension had begun to grow into something more serious. It started slowly. The horse shifted his weight from one leg to another, muscles rippling beneath his glossy chestnut coat. The guard atop him remained perfectly still, voice silent, posture disciplined. He knew the horse's signs well. Ears pinned back slightly, a small lift of his tail, a restless tap of hooves. He was trained for these moments, trained to maintain control while the crowd remained unaware of any danger. Yet even the most experienced guard could only do so much when the crowd pressed in too closely. A small family had edged closer than the guard preferred, hoping for a perfect photograph. The mother leaned in with her phone, the father crouched slightly to get the children in the frame, and the little girl reached her hand out toward the horse. Royal Guard Horse 7's ears flicked sharply backward, and a low, almost inaudible snort escaped him. The guard gave a subtle nudge with his leg, signaling the horse to stay calm. For a moment, everything seemed under control again, and the tourists remained oblivious. Then, in an instant, the situation escalated. The little girl's hand brushed the horse's side, not aggressively, but enough to surprise the animal. Royal Guard Horse 7 reacted immediately, his powerful jaw closing quickly. The guard shouted a command, trying to redirect the horse's attention, but the suddenness of the movement startled him. The horse's teeth made contact with the tourist's sleeve, holding on for a brief moment longer than expected. Screams erupted from the crowd. Some people gasped in horror, others froze in shock, and a few instinctively took a step back. The guard's face remained calm, but his mind raced. He knew that any sudden, panicked movement from him or the crowd could make the horse more agitated. He needed to act with precision. The horse was strong, and even a small misstep could lead to serious injury. Nearby guards immediately noticed the commotion. One stepped forward, raising his hand to signal the crowd to stay back, while another prepared to assist in controlling the horse if needed. Their movements were careful, deliberate, and almost rehearsed, the result of countless drills and years of experience. Yet even with this preparation, the tension in the square was palpable. Tourists pressed their hands to their mouths, some whispering prayers, others holding phones to capture the rare event. The tourist, though startled, tried to remain calm. The guard spoke softly, using a series of calm commands and gentle nudges with his knees to reassure the horse. Royal Guard Horse 7, trained to respond to these subtle cues, slowly released his grip, though the tension in his body remained. The tourist stepped back carefully, taking shallow breaths, while medics and other guards moved in to ensure that no injuries had occurred beyond minor scratches. For the tourists watching, the scene was both alarming and fascinating. Most had never seen anything like this. The perfect image of the ceremonial parade, the disciplined guards, and the majestic horses had been interrupted in a way that was both unexpected and thrilling. Some whispered to each other, trying to make sense of what had happened. Others replayed the moment on their phones, amazed at how quickly an ordinary visit had turned into a dramatic encounter. Royal Guard Horse 7's calm was restored gradually. The guard maintained a steady grip on the reins, speaking in a soft, rhythmic voice. The horse shifted his weight, nostrils flaring slightly, and then slowly his muscles relaxed. The family that had caused the incident stepped back, apologetic but unharmed. The crowd, sensing that the immediate danger had passed, let out a collective sigh of relief. The incident, brief as it was, highlighted the power and unpredictability of the royal horses. These animals, admired for their beauty and discipline, were also living beings with instincts and reactions that could not always be fully controlled. The guards, professionalism, and training ensured that the situation ended safely. But it was a reminder to everyone present that respect and caution were essential when interacting with such animals. Medics and guards checked the tourist for any minor injuries, applying first aid where needed. Meanwhile, Royal Guard Horse 7 was guided back to a slightly more open space within the parade area, allowing him to relax further. His handler spoke to him in low, soothing tones, gently rubbing his neck and shoulders. The horse's ears flicked back and forth, taking in the sounds of the square, then slowly settling as his breathing returned to normal. The crowd began to disperse slightly, conversations buzzing with excitement about what had just occurred. Some visitors laughed nervously, realizing how close they had come to a more serious incident. Others remained silent, awed by the sight of a majestic animal asserting itself and the calm, professional response of the guards. Children clutched their parents' hands, wide-eyed and curious, asking questions about why the horse had reacted the way it did. The guards, though outwardly composed, took mental notes of the incident. They would review it later, discussing ways to prevent similar occurrences in the future. Perhaps the crowd had been too close, perhaps the horse had sensed something unusual in the environment. Whatever the reason, they knew that training and experience were vital in handling such unexpected situations. Royal Guard Horse 7, now fully calm, returned to his usual position. He lifted his head proudly, nostrils flaring slightly as he scanned the square. The crowd, gradually realizing that the emergency was over, resumed taking photographs and observing the guards and horses, though with a newfound respect. The balance between human curiosity and animal instinct had been clearly demonstrated, leaving everyone with a story to remember. The incident quickly became the talk of the day, both among tourists and online. Visitors shared videos and photos of the event, amazed at how quickly the situation had escalated and been safely resolved. Yet amid the fascination, there was also an appreciation for the skill, discipline, and calm of the guards, who had managed a potentially dangerous situation with precision and care. Even as the day continued and new tourists arrived, the memory of the sudden bite lingered. Royal Guard Horse 7 returned to his ceremonial duties, seemingly unaffected, standing tall and proud. The guards resumed their watch, aware that their roles were more than ceremonial. They were guardians of tradition, protectors of the public, and caretakers of remarkable animals. The tourists left with stories to tell, some nervous laughter and an unforgettable experience. The Horse Guards Parade, always a symbol of London's history and majesty, had revealed a new dimension that day. The living, breathing presence of the horses, capable of commanding respect and awe in equal measure. The blend of discipline, beauty, and unpredictability made the event memorable, ensuring that it would remain in the minds of everyone who witnessed it for years to come. By the time the morning ended, the square had returned to its usual rhythm. The crowds thinned, the sunlight shifted, and Royal Guard Horse 7 continued to stand proudly beside his companions. The incident had passed, but its memory lingered, an extraordinary reminder that even in places where tradition and precision reign, life has a way of surprising us. The moment Royal Guard Horse 7 had bitten the tourist, even briefly, changed the entire mood at Horse Guards Parade. What had been a lively, cheerful morning had suddenly become tense, though the tension was invisible to most at first. Tourists continued to whisper among themselves, some wide-eyed, some nervously laughing as they processed what had just happened. Families clutched their children closer, and some of the photographers cautiously lowered their cameras, realizing that the scene was no longer just a picture-perfect moment. The guards, trained for such emergencies, maintained their calm and composure, but their minds worked quickly. They scanned the crowd, looking for anyone who might inadvertently get too close to the horses. Royal Guard Horse 7, now slightly more relaxed but still alert, shifted his weight from hoof to hoof, muscles rippling under his sleek coat. His ears flicked back repeatedly, alert for the slightest unusual sound or movement. The guards knew that even a single sudden distraction could reignite the horse's anxiety. The crowd itself had begun to notice the subtle tension. Whispering tourists pointed out the incident to each other, speculating on what had caused it. Some assumed the horse was simply mischievous, while others recognized that animals, even ceremonial horses, had instincts and moods that could not always be controlled. The story quickly spread through the square, as word of mouth traveled faster than the sound of the guards' commands. People moved cautiously, giving the horse space while still trying to catch glimpses of the scene that had unfolded. Royal Guard Horse 7, despite his training, remained watchful. The guards knew that his strength and size meant that any reaction had to be managed carefully. One of the senior guards, standing slightly apart from the main group, called over to his colleague, discussing in soft, precise words how to ensure the situation remained under control. Their communication was quiet, almost invisible to the tourists, but every word mattered. Guards had to anticipate the horses' reactions, understand the crowd's behavior, and coordinate their movements perfectly. Meanwhile, some tourists, unaware of the precautions being taken, edged closer. Their curiosity was understandable. Seeing such a powerful horse act unexpectedly was rare, and the drama unfolding before them was mesmerizing. Phones and cameras were raised again, this time capturing more cautious footage. Others whispered warnings to each other, suggesting they should not get any closer, but excitement and curiosity often outweighed caution. The tension grew in small, subtle ways. A child's sudden laugh, a dropped camera, or a group of visitors shifting position could startle the horse again. Royal Guard Horse 7's eyes darted to each minor movement, nostrils flaring slightly as he processed the stimuli around him. His body remained under control, but the energy in the square was changing, growing heavier and more charged. The guards adjusted their positions, forming a protective barrier around the horse and the area immediately around him. Their movements were smooth and precise, designed to be as calm and non-threatening as possible to the animal. A few moments later, another minor disruption occurred. A tourist, eager for a selfie, stepped too close to the edge of the guard's designated perimeter. The horse's ears twitched back sharply, and he let out a short snort. The guards immediately intervened, guiding the person back without alarming the animal. It was a delicate balance. They had to protect the crowd without startling the horse, all while maintaining the ceremonial dignity of the parade. The energy in the square was now a mix of awe, nervousness, and fascination. Tourists whispered stories of the horse's sudden reaction, exchanging theories about why it had happened. Some remarked on the power of the horse, noting its size and muscle, while others commented on the calm professionalism of the guards, who had handled the situation without panic. Children clung to their parents, eyes wide as they observed the mix of human control and animal instinct in action. Royal Guard Horse 7, though calm in appearance, remained internally alert. His body subtly shifted, tail swishing, hooves tapping in minor movements. The guards used every bit of training to maintain control, speaking quietly and giving precise cues with their reins and legs. They knew that any sudden loud noise or abrupt movement could trigger a more intense reaction. Every detail mattered, from the spacing of the tourists to the position of the guards themselves. The crowd slowly began to understand the seriousness of the situation. The incident had been brief, but it left an impression that lingered. People moved more carefully, giving space to the horses and listening attentively to the guards' instructions. Some visitors were fascinated by the coordination and discipline required to manage these majestic animals, realizing that the ceremonial beauty of the parade was only part of the story. Behind the scenes, a careful balance of training, instinct, and vigilance kept everything running smoothly. As the morning continued, the guards subtly shifted positions to maintain control. They communicated with slight gestures and quiet words, constantly aware of both the crowd and the horse. Royal Guard Horse 7 remained alert but obedient, responding to each subtle cue. The tourist who had been bitten earlier watched quietly from a safe distance, still in awe of the horse's size and power. Medical staff remained nearby, ready to assist if needed, though thankfully no serious injuries had occurred. Photographers and onlookers captured the moment in a new light. Instead of just seeing the guards and horses as static symbols of tradition, they now observed the dynamic interaction between humans and animals. They saw how quickly a moment of beauty and ceremony could shift into tension, requiring vigilance, skill, and respect. The incident became an unexpected lesson in awareness, patience, and the subtle power of the horses. Some tourists laughed nervously, recounting the drama to each other, while others remained silent, captivated by the precision and calm of the guards. Children whispered questions to their parents, asking why the horse had reacted that way and how the guards had handled it so efficiently. Parents explained that even trained animals could react unexpectedly, and that the guards' skill and calm had prevented a more serious situation. Despite the tension, the morning retained its charm. Sunlight glinted off the guards' polished boots, and the brass buttons on their red uniforms shone brilliantly. Horses, even when alert, were magnificent, their coats gleaming and muscles rippling as they shifted slightly. Visitors continued to take photographs, though now with a sense of respect and caution. They understood that they were witnessing more than just a ceremonial display. They were seeing living, breathing creatures and the humans trained to work with them in harmony. Royal Guard Horse 7 eventually began to relax more visibly. His breathing slowed, muscles softened, and his ears returned to a more neutral position. The guards subtly eased their control, maintaining readiness while allowing the horse to settle. The square began to regain its calm, though the memory of the incident lingered in the minds of tourists. Conversations buzzed about the strength and unpredictability of the horse, the professionalism of the guards, and the rare glimpse into a moment where tradition met real-life unpredictability. Even as new groups of tourists arrived, the story of the bite and the crowd's tension spread quickly. People shared their experiences, pointing out the careful management of the guards and the quick reactions that had prevented harm. It became clear that the Horse Guards Parade was not just a display of pomp and ceremony. It was a carefully orchestrated performance involving discipline, awareness, and deep understanding of the horse's behavior. By midday, Royal Guard Horse 7 had returned to his full ceremonial composure. The guards continued their watch, but the incident had left a subtle mark on everyone present. Tourists moved more respectfully, children remained close to their parents, and cameras clicked at a safer distance. The blend of excitement, tension, and awe created a memory that would last far longer than a simple photograph could capture. The guards quietly reviewed the incident in their minds. They would later discuss the minor warning signs and how the crowd's behavior had influenced the horse. These reflections were part of their training and experience, ensuring that each encounter became an opportunity to learn and improve. Royal Guard Horse 7, majestic and strong, remained a reminder of both the beauty and the unpredictability inherent in such a historic and living tradition. As the morning drew to a close, the square gradually returned to its usual rhythm. Crowds thinned slightly, conversations softened, and the sun's light shifted across the historic buildings. Yet the memory of the tense moments lingered, a story to be recounted and shared, reminding everyone that even in a place of tradition, elegance, and ceremony, life could surprise and challenge in the most unexpected ways. Even after the tension at Horse Guards Parade had begun to ease, the air remained thick with anticipation. Royal Guard Horse 7, though outwardly calm, was still alert and aware of every movement around him. The guards understood that even a single sudden sound or gesture could rekindle his unease. Each of them maintained their positions with precision, subtly adjusting their stance and keeping the surrounding tourists at a safe distance. They knew that the next few minutes were critical. The tourist who had been bitten earlier had stepped back to a safer spot, still a little shaken but unharmed. Medics checked carefully, confirming that there were only minor scratches. While no one was seriously hurt, the experience had left an impression on everyone nearby. Some of the tourists whispered nervously, pointing out how powerful the horse looked and how quickly the situation had escalated. Others took cautious photos, hoping to remember the event without putting themselves or the horse at risk. Royal Guard Horse 7's handler, a tall guard with years of experience, approached him carefully. His movements were calm, deliberate, and measured. He spoke softly to the horse, using a rhythm and tone that the animal recognized from years of training. The chestnut stallion responded to the familiar commands, his ears flicking forward slightly, muscles relaxing gradually. The guards watched closely, ready to intervene if necessary, but confident in the handler's skill. Meanwhile, the crowd began to settle. Tourists, having witnessed the guards' careful management of the situation, were impressed by the calm professionalism on display. Some whispered to each other, remarking on the training required to manage such large and strong animals. Others quietly praised the guards for their quick thinking and skill, realizing that what they had seen was far more than a ceremonial display. It was a live demonstration of discipline, awareness, and respect for powerful animals. The handler slowly guided Royal Guard Horse 7 to a slightly more open area of the parade ground. This small shift allowed the horse to feel less crowded and more secure. The guard continued to use gentle verbal cues and small nudges with his legs, guiding the horse to relax without creating alarm. The animal's breathing slowed, and the tension in his body began to dissipate. Observing the calm, the other guards subtly adjusted their positions, maintaining a protective circle but allowing space for the horse to regain full composure. Some tourists, previously frozen in shock, began to observe more closely. They noted the subtle communication between the guard and the horse, the way a slight tilt of the head, a soft word, or a gentle movement of the reins could influence such a large animal. It was fascinating to see how a combination of training, patience, and respect could guide even the strongest instincts of the horse. Children asked their parents questions about what had happened, and parents explained that the guards, training, and calmness had prevented a potentially serious situation. Royal Guard Horse 7 gradually lowered his head, nostrils flaring lightly as he breathed in the morning air. His eyes, once wide and alert, softened, and the slight tension in his neck and shoulders eased. The guard continued speaking gently, reinforcing the horse's sense of safety. The crowd began to sense the change, too. The tension that had filled the square slowly dissipated, replaced by a quiet awe at the skill and care demonstrated by the guards. The tourist who had been bitten earlier watched from a safe distance, grateful for the guards' professionalism. She smiled nervously, her hands still slightly trembling. Another guard approached, speaking kindly and reassuringly, checking that she was feeling all right. It was a small act, but it highlighted the attention and care that the guards provided not only to the horses, but also to the people around them. As Royal Guard Horse 7 returned to full composure, the guards subtly guided him back to his original ceremonial position. His movements were smooth, disciplined, and almost graceful, demonstrating both his strength and his training. The sunlight caught the horse's glossy coat, highlighting the muscles and sheen that made him such a magnificent presence. Tourists snapped photos, this time at a safer distance, still captivated by the animal's beauty and the quiet skill of the guards. The square gradually returned to its normal rhythm, but the morning had left a lasting impression. The event had reminded everyone present that even in the most disciplined and ceremonial settings, animals were living beings with instincts that required respect. Royal Guard Horse 7, now calm and obedient, stood tall and proud, a testament to the effectiveness of careful training and the deep bond between horse and handler. The guards quietly reviewed the morning's events among themselves. They discussed the small warning signs that had appeared before the incident and how they had managed the horse's reaction. These reflections were part of their ongoing training, ensuring that each experience, even brief or minor, contributed to the overall safety and success of future ceremonial duties. Their conversations were subtle, almost imperceptible to the tourists, but every word and gesture was deliberate. Visitors, now observing the parade with a mix of admiration and respect, noticed how smoothly the situation had been handled. Children asked questions about the horses, parents explained how trained animals could react instinctively, and some tourists shared their experiences online, describing the unique mix of excitement and awe they had witnessed. The story of the morning quickly began to circulate, adding a memorable chapter to the history of the Horse Guards parade. Royal Guard Horse 7, sensing that the immediate stress had passed, began to move with his usual poise. He shifted slightly, lifting his head high and scanning the square with calm, alert eyes. The guards continued their watch, subtly guiding him with soft commands and precise cues. The horse's earlier tension had transformed into a quiet dignity, a reminder of both his power and his training. The medics and support staff remained nearby, a silent assurance of safety for both tourists and horses. They observed the horse and the guard, noting the effectiveness of the calm and controlled approach. It was a clear demonstration that preparation, discipline, and patience were essential when managing powerful animals in public spaces. As the morning continued, the crowd slowly dispersed, though many lingered to admire the guards and horses. Tourists discussed what they had seen, pointing out the quick thinking and professionalism that had prevented a serious incident. Some visitors laughed nervously, realizing how close the situation had come to becoming dangerous, while others marveled at the horse's strength and the calm manner of the guards. Even after the crowd thinned, the memory of the incident lingered in the minds of those present. Royal Guard Horse 7 returned to his full ceremonial duties, standing tall, proud, and obedient. The guards resumed their watch, ever vigilant but confident in their training and the bond they shared with the horse. The square regained its normal rhythm, sunlight glinting off polished boots and shining brass buttons, but the morning had been a vivid lesson in respect, patience, and skill. The tourists left with stories to tell, some excitedly, some nervously, but all agreed on one thing. They had witnessed a rare and unforgettable glimpse into the delicate balance between human skill, tradition, and the instincts of magnificent animals. Royal Guard Horse 7 had reminded everyone of his power, while the guards had shown the importance of calm, discipline, and careful handling. It was a story they would carry long after leaving the Horse Guards parade. By the time the day had progressed, the square was quiet once more. The ceremonial horses continued their duties, and the guards, though alert, could sense that the immediate tension had passed. Royal Guard Horse 7, standing tall, appeared almost serene, a living symbol of the majesty and discipline that defined the Horse Guards parade. The tourists' excitement had shifted to admiration and respect, and the event had left a permanent impression in the hearts and minds of those who had witnessed it. The morning's incident, brief yet intense, had concluded without serious injury, thanks to the professionalism of the guards and the careful handling of the horse. The balance of calm authority, understanding of animal behavior, and quick decision-making had prevented what could have been a more serious situation. In its aftermath, the square returned to its usual beauty, sunlight reflecting off historic buildings, polished boots, and gleaming brass. But the lessons of the day remained vividly in the minds of everyone present. Royal Guard Horse 7, now calm and poised, stood ready for the rest of the day's ceremonial duties. The guards, aware of the lesson learned, kept a watchful eye on the crowds and the horses, ensuring that safety and tradition continued to coexist. The story of the incident would be remembered, shared, and retold, a testament to the delicate balance between human skill, tradition, and the power of nature embodied in these remarkable animals. As the afternoon sunlight bathed Horse Guards parade in a warm, golden glow, the square began to settle back into its usual rhythm. The incident with Royal Guard Horse 7 had left its mark on everyone present, and the tourists now moved more cautiously, though still filled with admiration for the guards and the majestic animals. Children clung to their parents' hands, whispering excitedly about what had happened, while adults shared knowing glances, silently impressed by the skill and calm demonstrated by the guards. The story of the morning's events quickly spread among the visitors. Phones and cameras were filled with photos and videos, capturing the brief moment of tension and the horse's eventual calm. Social media posts soon followed, with captions describing the professionalism of the guards, the majesty of the horse, and the excitement of witnessing such a rare incident. People were fascinated not only by the horse's strength and power, but also by the precision and dedication of the guards who ensured everyone's safety. Even for those who had not been close enough to see the incident firsthand, the story created a new sense of awe and respect for the Horse Guards parade. Tourists visiting later in the day noticed the subtle changes in the crowd's behavior. Visitors now gave the horses more space, observing quietly and attentively. Families explained to their children that the horses, while beautiful and disciplined, were still powerful animals whose instincts had to be respected. The atmosphere remained cheerful, but the lesson of the morning lingered, a quiet reminder of the balance between human curiosity and animal instinct. The guards themselves continued their duties with an air of calm professionalism. Though outwardly their posture remained stiff and ceremonial, they were quietly reviewing the morning's events in their minds. They discussed what warning signs they had observed in the horse, how the crowd's behavior influenced the situation, and how they could apply these lessons in the future. Their reflections were subtle, almost invisible to the tourists, but each thought contributed to their ongoing expertise in managing both the ceremonial display and the safety of everyone present. Royal Guard Horse 7, standing tall and proud, seemed to embody the lessons of the day. His glossy chestnut coat glistened in the sunlight, and his muscles rippled with strength and elegance. He moved with a sense of calm authority, aware of the crowd but no longer tense. Visitors stopped to admire him, some whispering to each other about how impressive it was to see such a large and powerful animal behave so gracefully. Children asked questions about the horse, curious to learn more about his training and abilities, while parents explained the importance of respect and careful observation around animals. The medics who had remained nearby throughout the morning quietly packed away their supplies, satisfied that no one had been seriously harmed. Their presence, though not always noticed, had been a reassuring factor for both tourists and guards. It was a reminder that behind the beauty and tradition of the parade, there was careful planning, preparation, and readiness for any unexpected event. As the day wore on, the incident became a story shared between tourists. Families recounted the bite, describing the initial shock, the tension in the crowd, and the calm professionalism of the guards. Children excitedly drew pictures of the horse and guards, capturing the drama and the heroism they had witnessed. Visitors laughed nervously, recalling how close the situation had come to becoming more serious, while others marveled at the skill required to manage such a large, strong, and intelligent animal. Even the guards themselves felt a sense of pride in how they had handled the situation. They had faced a challenge without alarm, without panic, and without breaking the ceremonial nature of their duties. Their training had prepared them for such moments, but each incident was also a reminder that no two situations were ever the same. The experience reinforced the importance of observation, patience, and quick decision-making, qualities that were essential not only for ceremonial duties, but also for ensuring public safety. Tourists continued to photograph the parade, now with a heightened awareness of the delicate balance between human behavior and animal instincts. Every click of the camera seemed to carry a new respect for the horses and the guards who managed them. Children asked questions about how the horses were trained, what signals the guards used, and why the animals sometimes reacted unpredictably. Parents explained that animals, no matter how well trained, had instincts and emotions, and that the guards' calm and measured approach ensured that everyone remained safe. The morning incident also sparked conversations among visitors about responsibility and respect. Many reflected on how easy it was to become caught up in excitement, forgetting the potential consequences of sudden movements or closeness around powerful animals. The experience became a lesson in awareness, teaching tourists that admiration for beauty and tradition must always be paired with caution and respect. It was a subtle, valuable takeaway that went beyond the brief drama of the morning. Royal Guard Horse 7, seemingly aware of the attention he was receiving, stood calmly in the parade. His eyes, bright and alert, followed the movements of the crowd without tension. He shifted his weight slightly, hooves tapping softly on the stone pavement, and lifted his head proudly. Tourists whispered in awe, pointing out the horse's strength, beauty, and calm demeanor. The contrast between the tension of the morning and the current serene state was remarkable, demonstrating the effectiveness of skill, patience, and careful handling. By mid-afternoon, the parade had returned to its typical rhythm. The crowds, though still numerous, moved with a newfound respect. Families explained to each other how the guards' professionalism had prevented harm, and children were captivated by the combination of majesty, discipline, and unpredictability. Tourists shared their experiences online, creating a lasting record of the morning's events. The story spread, highlighting the delicate balance between tradition, human curiosity, and the instincts of powerful animals. The guards continued their ceremonial duties, but the morning's events remained in their thoughts. They reflected on the minor signals that the horse had shown before the incident, the crowd behavior that had contributed to the tension, and the effectiveness of their response. Each guard, individually and collectively, used the experience as a reminder of the ongoing responsibility they held, not only to perform their ceremonial duties, but also to ensure safety for both humans and animals. Visitors, having witnessed the events firsthand, often spoke about the experience with a mix of excitement and respect. Some described the thrill of seeing a powerful animal assert itself. Others praised the guards for their calm and precise handling. Children drew vivid pictures of the dramatic moment. Parents took notes in their minds, and tourists shared stories that would become part of their London memories for years to come. Royal Guard Horse 7, standing tall, seemed to understand the unspoken respect now present in the square. His presence, combined with the guards' professionalism, reminded everyone that tradition and reality coexisted in a delicate balance. The majesty of the parade was not just in the uniforms, polished boots, or ceremonial movements. It was also in the respect, training, and skill that allowed humans and animals to work together safely and harmoniously. As the sun began to descend, casting long shadows across the parade ground, the incident of the morning became a story of reflection and learning. Tourists slowly left, chatting quietly about what they had witnessed. Children waved goodbye to the horses, families discussed the importance of caution and respect, and visitors carried away memories that were far more vivid than any photograph could capture. Even as the square emptied, the story of Royal Guard Horse 7 and the brief bite lingered. It became a tale of awe, professionalism, and the unpredictable nature of life. The guards had demonstrated skill and patience, the horse had shown his strength and instincts, and the tourists had learned an important lesson in respect and awareness. The day had provided a unique insight into the living, breathing reality behind the ceremonial tradition of the Horse Guards parade. By evening, the parade ground was calm once more. Royal Guard Horse 7, still magnificent and proud, had returned fully to his ceremonial posture. The guards remained vigilant, ever aware of the lessons learned earlier, yet outwardly composed as if nothing unusual had occurred. The crowd had dispersed, but the memory of the day would remain, a story of tension, skill, and respect, forever part of the visitors' London experience. The morning's incident, now fully resolved, had become a testament to the importance of preparation, patience, and understanding. Tourists left inspired, families shared stories, and the guards quietly reflected on the successful handling of a potentially dangerous moment. Royal Guard Horse 7, standing calmly in the fading sunlight, embodied the perfect blend of power, discipline, and majesty. The story of that day would be remembered not for fear, but for the professionalism, respect, and awe that had defined the experience. Even after the tourists had left and the guards completed their duties, the story of the morning remained part of the square's living history. Royal Guard Horse 7's presence, the calm and skill of the guards, and the lessons learned by everyone who witnessed the events served as a reminder that tradition, discipline, and respect for living beings were inseparable. Visitors carried the story home, sharing it with friends and family, ensuring that the lessons of the day would be remembered far beyond the boundaries of horse.